My name is Gabi, and if you're considering the 2026 Kia Sportage as your next vehicle, you might want to check out the EX trim level. I truly believe that this trim offers value, comfort, and great technology at a very attractive price point. So it's priced at $39,745 Canadian, making it just under $40,000. And in today's video, I will show you exactly what you get for that money. We're going to talk powertrain, the specifications of the vehicle, as well as things like the wheel configuration, the interior, as well as technology, safety, you name it, we're talking about it. And the best part is this video is done live. So one take, no editing, no script, no nothing, just me, the camera, and the car, and you guys watching. If you are catching this live, feel free to use the live chat box on the side to ask questions in advance. And then towards the end of the actual overview, I will take a couple minutes to go over and answer some questions or anything I may have missed. So let's get into it. I typically first start off on the front end of these vehicles. And again, if you missed the price point, it is $39,745 Canadian. The EX trim level is smack dab in the middle of the Sportage trim lineup. And the Sportage, fun fact, is actually the longest running Kia nameplate here in Canada. So this car has been around for a while. It is tried and true. The EX has also been a long time running not nameplate, but trim level. We'll first start off with the front end because that's where you'll see some of the major changes that the 2026 model offers. Now, aesthetically, what the EX trim is going to add on is the inclusion of this beautiful premium gloss black grille. So this trim is one up from the X-Line model and two trim levels up from the entry-level LX. The entry-level LX has a bit more of a flat black finish. However, the X-Line has gloss black with the gloss black emblem. So this car will take things with a bit of a lighter meets dark approach, offering a little bit more satin chrome, as well as brushed aluminum for the Kia emblems, with nice touches of gloss black in the grille itself. You have forward-facing parking sensors. Now that is not exclusive to the EX trim level, but is still a very nice touch to have. That'll give you some audible alerts as you get too close to things like a vehicle ahead of you or a wall while parking. For your lower grille, you'll see that it is finished in a regular flat black finish. And right smack dab in the middle, we have our forward-facing radar plate. Now I'm just gonna flip the camera to talk to you guys about that for a second. I always find it feels like we're having a conversation here if I do this. So the smart cruise control function is actually transformed to highway drive assist level 1 when you get to the EX trim level. What does that mean? Well, essentially that radar plate will monitor the distance of your car and the vehicle ahead of you, and it'll slow you down if there's a vehicle slowing down or stop and go traffic. So basically it just mimics the traffic situation. Brings you right back up to speed again once things get moving. So smart cruise control is great and all, but this car takes it a step further by also giving more intelligence. It's gonna know the navigation data of the highway that you're on, if there's any bends in the road, and just makes the overall experience a little bit smoother and a little bit smarter. So I hope that kind of summarizes what highway driving assist does versus regular smart cruise control. So it's everything your smart cruise control does, but a little smarter. For your main headlamps, we have the traditional LEDs. So you'll see they're vertically stacked. We no longer have that almost boomerang style daytime running light that makes the Sportage have a funky front end look. Everything is just a bit more modern, a bit more grown up now. Now I know you guys might be missing the boomerang. I miss it too. This is definitely more in line with Kia's current design language, and I am liking it. Your amber daytime running light, you can see it's pulsing on video, but it does not pulse in person. Very bold, gives the car a lot of design presence. All right, let's work our way over towards the driver's door. I'm just gonna pop the hood for you guys and we'll talk powertrain next. Just a little warning, I am filming by myself today, so it's gonna be a little bit more difficult getting the good angles, especially when it comes to showing you what space is like inside the cabin. So you'll have to bear with me there. And you'll also have to bear with me while I pop the hood. So I'm just gonna set you guys down right over here and open up YouTube Studio so I can see you guys, see what you're saying about the car so far. All right, let's get the hood open. We'll talk powertrain. So if you're shopping for a gas model Kia Sportage, there's actually only one trim level option. It doesn't matter if you get the entry or the top of the line, you will still get a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated inline 4-cylinder engine. Now this engine is going to utilize both multi-point injection and gasoline direct injection. That means that this vehicle combines both fuel delivery systems to give you a blend of efficiency and performance without the risk of carbon buildup. Now, to put things in less technical terms, what you might be more concerned about is how much power does it produce, and how efficient is this powertrain. So horsepower-wise, we're looking at 187 horse with 178 pound-feet of torque. Your transmission is a regular 8-speed automatic, so no dual-clutch transmission, no CVT transmission, and its overall efficiency is rated at about 8.9 liters per 100 kilometers combined with the all-wheel drive configuration. Now, if all-wheel drive is a must-have for you, have no fear. Here in Canada, all trim levels of the Kia Sportage have all-wheel drive except for the introductory LX front-wheel drive. So if you want the absolute base model, but all-wheel drive is a must, there's an LX front-wheel drive and an LX all-wheel drive, where the only differences are the all-wheel drive being added on. So you can still get an entry model if that's what you'd like. All right, back to what makes the EX special. Before we talk wheels, let's talk windshield. So you can't tell by me showing you on this video because our quality is too bad. But we do have a heated windshield being added on in the EX trim. That means that it will actually melt snow and ice off the windscreen itself, just like what you're used to in your rear window. So it has those little burners running through the glass that you can see if you pay real close attention, and it's super handy to have here in Canada. You'll also get the inclusion of rain sensing wipers, so nice add-on. Not a must-have for a lot of people, but something that's pretty nice. Right in the center, and now we're not talking about EX exclusive, this is actually standard, we have a camera that monitors what's happening in the road ahead of you. So that'll be used for forward collision avoidance, where the vehicle will warn you if there's a risk of a crash, as well as brake to avoid it. But it'll also keep you centered in your lanes when you turn on or off your lane follow assist system. The car will warn you if you're about to depart, giving you an audible alert and a little bit of correction. Or if you just want to use the lane follow assist function, it'll see the bends in the road and take action in advance to make sure you're always following the lane. Make sense? I hope so. Let me know if you guys want more clarification. All right, back to EX exclusives, it's the wheels. So these 18-inch alloys are exclusive to this select trim level. They are not shared with any of the other trims on the Kia Sportage. You have a gloss black spoke design with a little bit of machined finished accents too, so a bit of the dark, a bit of the light, just like what we see on the grille on the front end of the vehicle. Your tires are a Goodyear all-season tire. 235/60 R18s are your tire size. Now the brakes up at the front are going to be larger. They're ventilated disc brakes, and you'll get solid disc brakes in the rear for this vehicle, as well as a multi-link rear suspension. Sounds good. All right. I'm going to set you guys down again just while we have a quick talk about the all-wheel drive system on the car. Warning you, this is going to be a little awkward for the setup, but then we'll get right back into business for the rest of the walk-around. So Kia's all-wheel drive system has a front-wheel drive bias. What that means is that if it's a regular day and you have regular dry pavement on the road ahead of you, your vehicle will operate primarily in front-wheel drive. This is great to conserve fuel, so you're not going to be wasting all that gas. However, if it detects a little bit of slippage on your Sportage, it will incorporate more power to the rear, giving you the all-wheel drive system that you need. However, Kia has a fantastic function called Terrain Mode Select and Drive Mode Select. So the Terrain Mode Select, which I'll show you guys on the inside, lets you put the car in either snow mode, mud mode, or sand mode. That means it'll change up the all-wheel drive torque distribution, as well as your vehicle's stability control and gear shifts, to make sure you get optimal traction in those kind of terrain situations. However, you also have Drive Mode Select, so things like Sport Mode or even a customizable Drive Mode, which will change the throttle sensitivity, the steering feel, and just the way your vehicle's main powertrain is performing based off your driver input. It sounds super confusing and a lot to think about. That's why I do think it is quite handy to have the vehicle be smart in its sense that it'll change the all-wheel drive torque distribution on its own depending on if it senses slippage. All of those things like snow, mud, and sand is just optional in there if you'd like to. All right, now back to the car. Let's stand up. Okay. We'll take a little look at the mirrors. So we have a black post or arm for the mirror, flagpole maybe, if you guys want to call it that. The mirror itself is body color, which is in this case our white pearl. You get an LED turn signal indicator on the side and blind spot detection. Blind spot detection is not an EX exclusive. It's actually an add-on from the trim level below it, but still certainly nice to have. The belt line of the vehicle is in that beautiful satin chrome finish again, and then your main pillars are just a matte black. You get proximity entry with this vehicle, so just push on either the driver or passenger front handle to unlock or lock the vehicle as long as the key's on you. And then you have your gloss black roof rails up at the top. Very nice. There's a huge thing about the roof in this vehicle that's best shown inside the cabin, and spoiler alert, if you like looking outside of your car, preferably not while driving, it makes a big difference. All right, and then side profile of the vehicle. So again, a lot of dark gloss black finishes with some nice satin metal touches right down there, and then the machined finished accents on the wheels. Very, very nice if you don't like an all black look or an all chromed out look. For your tail lamps, we get a mix of LEDs and regular bulbs. Again, they'll look like they're pulsing on camera, but they do not do that in person. There is gloss black supporting the housing, so again, giving it a nice dark look. And then your Kia emblem is our not stainless steel, but brushed aluminum finish. For your spoiler, we have our high-mounted stop lamp that also houses your rear wiper. It's a little dirty right now, you guys. We don't have a detailer right now. And then along the bottom of the vehicle, you can see our rear parking sensors. So those circular ultrasonic sensors that will beep at you inside the cabin if it detects you're getting too close to anything. There's also a rear cross-traffic collision avoidance on this vehicle, which essentially means if you are reversing your vehicle out of a busy parking spot and it senses cars driving up behind you or pedestrians walking up behind you, it will alert you as a driver and it can brake for you to avoid hitting them. It's pretty nice to have, not gonna lie. All right, here is somewhere where the Sportage truly shines. The ability to take 5 passengers with you, or I guess 4 passengers, 1 driver, and still carry all of your goods without having to fold down or sacrifice a seat. There is truly so much space back here. I'll put the actual dimensions in the video's description if you would like the full specifics. However, on the side, you can see we have a 12-volt inverter, an LED interior light. This trim level is the introductory trim to LED interior lights, as well as for peace of mind and safety. Underneath the floorboard, you also get a compact spare tire. So little donut, so nice to have, especially if you do live in Ontario where our roads are known for being very high quality with very little debris on them. It's a truly good peace of mind to have. All right, now a couple more topics I want to touch on before we get into the interior of the vehicle. I mentioned the fuel efficiency, but I'll say it again. We're at 8.9 liters per 100 kilometers combined, so that's highway and city, and that is for the all-wheel drive vehicle. So if you have front-wheel drive, it's going to be a little bit better, just a little bit. Now, this vehicle has a 54-liter tank, so not too big to fill, and regular unleaded fuel is just fine. Again, powertrain-wise, we have a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated, so not turbocharged engine that produces 187 horsepower with 178 pound-feet of torque. How do I remember all that? I don't know, but I don't remember when my birthday is, so that's all. Let's quickly hop in the vehicle and talk about the interior. So a lot of the more luxe touches that the EX Premium adds on really comes down to the interior. We do get the inclusion of our power driver's seat from the trim level below, but there's a couple big changes for the inside, one of which is this giant panoramic sunroof. So expanding all the way to the rear, you get a powered cover control as well as powered glass control. You can tip it open if you just want a little bit of a airflow crack, or you can actually have the glass open to its max, which is at this point. I'll show you guys quickly from the outside how that looks. You can see we got a little bit of a bug net up at the top, and just a nice sleek sunroof. Really opens up the space of the interior. For your doors, you'll see a little bit of this almost, I don't want to say carbon fiber, but gunmetal touch with more of that satin metal. And then on the side, pardon my dirt marks, you guys, we have express windows for driver and passenger, as well as our unlock and lock controls and your mirror controls. Towards the bottom, you can see our speakers. We do not have a premium sound system in this particular model, but just the in-house regular sound system. On the left-hand side, we've got a button for the brightness adjustment of your touchscreen displays, or I shouldn't even say touchscreen, your screen displays. One's touch, one's not, as well as your traction control and your electronic parking brake. The seat controls are pretty straightforward. So we've got the bottom of our seat, which you can adjust the height as well as the angle of which the seat's positioned. And then you've got your backrest and 2-way lumbar supports. Both driver and passenger front seats will be heated with 3 different levels of heat per seat. All right, let's hop in. Now, a couple things that make the EX special. I just want to get them out of the way before we talk about what else this car has. Let's talk about what it adds on. So for our main head unit here, although we get the same size screen in the trim levels below, they will not have included navigation. So this particular trim level will be your starting trim for Kia's in-house nav, which is fantastic if you do not like using Google Maps or Apple Maps from your phone, or maybe you just frequently travel places with no data coverage. This will work regardless of where you are, as long as your car is on. So quite handy to have, and this also helps with your highway drive assist smart cruise control. Super nice. This will also be your introductory trim level to dual zone climate control. So on all trim levels below, you'll only be able to set the climate for everybody. In this particular trim level, the passenger can have their own separate temperature, or we can sync it up. And we also get an automatic defog system added on here. You guys already know about the sunroof. I mentioned that thing first off as soon as we got into the interior. And here's a smaller added benefit of the EX trim level. We've got our LED lights. You guys, I'm losing it. I'm totally losing it. I'm so not used to filming by myself. All right, so let's continue on with what else we get in this particular vehicle, regardless of the fact that it's the EX trim. So whatever else it adds and carries over. So 12.3-inch display, which I already mentioned. However, this time we get nav. Here's a couple of things though, if you haven't been researching the KIA Sportage and just stumbled upon this video. This head unit is full touchscreen, very easy to use with large icons and super customizable. You also have separate guest drive modes. So you got a guest mode as well as 2 set modes. So if I share my vehicle with my partner, I could set one for Gabi, one for Daniel, whatever you'd like. Super easy for multi-driver households. You also have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So in the past, all of our vehicles that had a touchscreen larger than 10.25 inches, it had to be wired controls. Now we get wireless throughout all of our cars, which is super handy. Very nice to have. Right underneath the touchscreen display, I already mentioned we have our dual zone climate control, but let's talk a little bit more about what the buttons do. So left-hand side will be driver and the rest of the vehicle, and then the passenger will be just the passenger's climate. You'll set your speed and intensity with these fan controls, so larger for increasing the fan speed, smaller for decreasing. Here's your front defrost control as well as your sync button to match the temperature, as well as the AC control and your front and rear defrost, as well as your auto climate settings. If you'd like to turn it off quickly, you can just press that and it shuts it off like a power button. This also flips, however, and now we have access to some of our infotainment controls. So if I were to press map, it'll jump me into my vehicle's navigation map menu. This is the same for everything else pretty much, so setup will take you to your setup menu. Here's something worth noting though, if this is your first new car in a while, there is an integrated search button that allows you to type in whatever it is you're looking for. So whether that be an address for the navigation menu, or even something as simple as changing the time on your vehicle after daylight savings time. If you type this in, it'll show you a couple nav hits, and then it'll take you to your setup menus and what you might possibly be searching for. So this will be your best friend with a new car. Let's also get you guys set up or familiar with the gauge cluster. So this is another 10.25-inch display. However, it's not considered the full digital dash. This centerpiece here is what you can really configure and change. You can cycle between what's displayed based off this touch button here. So it looks like a little notepad. When you click on it, you can cycle between your active safety functions, as well as your all-wheel drive power distribution, your tire pressure, current trip, and then if you have a route set in your navigation, it'll show you your turn-by-turn here. It'll also always show you your distance to empty, as well as the speed limit of the road that you're traveling on. And then the bottom left-hand side has your fuel, with the right-hand side showing your temperature. Coolant temperature, that is. On the right-hand side, we get our tachometer, and then the left, we have our digital speedometer. Those will be displayed at all times, so do not worry, you don't have to find a menu to show that. It's just always readily visible. On the left-hand side, you got your driver assistance controls, so if you'd like to actively turn on your smart cruise control, which will automatically change it to highway drive assist if you are on a highway. You'll press the bottom left button to cycle between your following distances, so whether you want to be as close to the vehicle ahead of you as possible or as far away. Each time you press this, it'll cycle you back further, closer. To the right, you can turn on or off your steering assistance. So when I press this button, you'll see we now get, oh, I guess we can't do it because the car's not on, but it'll turn on or off the display and of course the function. In the main center, you'll see our offset Kia emblem, as well as your drive mode being on the left-hand side, where you can go between normal, sport, and my drive. And then your terrain mode's on the right, where you can go between snow, mud, and sand. You can't be in sport mode or mud mode at the same time. It's either one drive mode or one terrain mode at a time. All right, now I think we'll talk a little bit about the very center console. We've got USB-Cs down here, as well as a wireless phone charger. Perfect, convenient location. Your push-to-start ignition is hidden just by your gear shift, so a little hard to film, but it is in a quite easy to access location. And then a great thing that Kia has done with the new Sportage, they've removed a lot of that piano black material. So all of this high-touch area here is encased in almost a carbon fiber-esque trim. I say carbon fiber loosely. It looks nothing like carbon fiber, but I'm at a loss for words on what to call this. Just a nice metal finish that you can't see fingerprints on, so this will age up very nicely. Your heated seats and heated steering wheel are also in a button that doesn't show fingerprints too, so fantastic. Heated seat, heated steering wheel, super easy to understand, and then of course it illuminates to show you what intensity you're at. Your gear shift, regular 8-speed automatic with a regular lever style. And then you have your adjustable cup holders. These are great because water bottles keep getting bigger, just like cars do. And this way you can adjust based off what kind of beverage you have. If it's a smaller can of pop or something, it fits that, but it can also fit a large Stanley or whatever you have. All right, now below your gear shift, we have our, this is so hard to film right now, sorry you guys, it's gonna be a little shaky. We've got our parking sensor button here, our park view camera, as well as our idle stop and go, downhill braking assist, and auto hold braking function. I'll just quickly show you your park view camera. Now you get a rear view camera on this vehicle. The liftgate is currently up, so you get a nice, beautiful view of the ceiling, but check out the quality. You can see our water stains on the ceiling tiles. Pretty nice. All right, now let's check out the back seats. Or before I show the back, I'll actually quickly show you guys what the passenger seat looks like. So it is not a powered passenger seat on the EX trim. You would have to go to the EX Premium to get that, but it is still comfortable and of course heated. The design is exactly the same as the driver itself, so nice wide bolstering, making it very supportive and very, very comfy. You get your backrest adjustment, but there is no height adjustment on the seat. In terms of airbags, there are 8 airbags throughout the Kia Sportage, and I'll do a quick rundown of some of the safety functions too. Sorry, I just had to walk over here to trigger the lights back on. So here are some of the standard safety functions. You'll get forward collision avoidance, which will allow the vehicle to sense the risk of a collision as well as brake for you to avoid a collision, as well as lane keep and lane follow assist. Now both of these systems sound very similar, but essentially one will beep at you and warn you if you're about to depart from your lane, and the other will see changes on the road ahead of you and take action ahead of time. So if there's a bend in the road, it's not going to beep at you when you start to not sit in it. It's going to steer for you and keep you in that bend. All right, now we're in the car. Just going to sit you guys down here. This is what I mean by it's a little bit hard to film on my own here as a live stream. Yeah, things are not looking too good, my friends. Let's set you over here. Headroom-wise, I'm gonna sit as far back as I normally would. We've got a really good amount of space. Actually, it feels like a lot more space now that the sunroof is open. I will not lie, if you guys do opt for vehicles with a sunroof, oftentimes you will lose a little bit in the headroom department. That's provided that the cover is down. If the cover is up and it's just the glass, you actually gain a little bit. So it's quite spacious, and the illusion of a sunroof or just the window, the shine coming in, it also gives the illusion of more space anyway. So a little bit more of an open air feel. You do also have a lighter headliner to contribute to that factor. It doesn't feel as confined inside. Now your 2 main seats are going to be fairly wide, so whatever kind of passenger sitting back here, they have the best seats in the house. The center seat is not bad at all though. Just before I take a seat in it, I'll show you that the middle will drop down to give you an armrest as well as cup holders if you would like, and then it pops right back into place. The 2 main seats will also have car seat tethers and anchors. All right, now the middle seat. Middle seat will fit a child and a smaller adult for sure. I am not struggling in the headroom department at all here, even though the seat does sit a little bit higher. One thing I will point out, and this is with just about every all-wheel drive vehicle, because I mean we do have a drivetrain running down there, you will have your feet positioned. Guys, I'm trying to figure out the camera controls and it's not working out too good. Sorry, did I break y'all's neck? All right, we do have a little bit of a higher hump. Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm gonna show you guys when I get out of the car because this is not gonna work. I can tell you right now. Okay, we do have a bit of a higher hump along the floorboard, so it does kind of raise your feet a little bit. However, it's not too drastic, doesn't make that much of a difference. Now for amenities, we have these hooks built onto the backs of the headrests ahead of us, which can be used to hang bags, coats, whatever you'd like. And then you have built-in USB-Cs in the seats ahead of you too. So quicker charging, very easy to find, easy to use, and a very convenient hook beside it that you can wrap around your cable, your charge cable, when not in use. You do also have a leather pocket, which adds a little bit more privacy, and then rear ventilation, so rear vents. Just below that, we have a storage pocket, and then the same is flipped on the passenger side. So we get the same hook, the same USB-C charger, and then a smaller hook too. All right, let us hop out, and I'll show you guys the center hump that I was talking about. So this is one of the points that make the center seat a little bit less comfortable. That is a raised floor, so your feet will sit a bit higher. However, the seat itself, although it is narrow compared to the seats beside it, it is not too small. So you can still fit in it and still enjoy your road trip in the center seat. All right, you guys, let's answer some questions. I am out of breath, so I need to take a couple breathes. I need to take a breather before I answer some. Let's see what you have to say. Lomenia said, that's a bag hook. Really? Pretty smart, actually. Yeah, extremely smart. A lot of vehicles will have it kind of by where the handles are. Oh, it's okay, Connor. You already walked it.
Sorry. Didn't realize the time.
Finally, someone's here to film me. There's a little hook on most vehicles. It is nice to have it just in a more convenient location, so that way it's not blocking your view out of the window. It's just right ahead of you. Why don't the interior wood grain trims expand to the higher end Sportage? So you will find the wood grain trim on the X line, which is actually one below the EX, and the X line Limited, which is the very, very top trim level. The X line reserves the wood grain trim because it's more so our adventure or off-roady-esque trim levels, where the wood grain kind of matches the whole outdoorsy vibe. However, for the EX and EX Premium, they like to use more urban or futuristic metal accents. So, or, you know, hardcore rock metal. But I quite like it. I like what they did with the place, as corny as that sounds. And it's really personal preference, so maybe you really do prefer the whole urban or modern look versus the outdoorsy look. It's just nice to have variation in our trim levels, right? So I'm glad they did that. And most of all, I'm just glad instead of, you know, maybe they didn't do the wood grain, but at least they didn't do piano black. Anything is an improvement from piano black. Given the updates, does the 2026 Sportage EX strike a better balance between ruggedness and modern sophistication compared to previous models? I would say yes. So compared to last year, I mean, we do have the inclusion of more technology, which is fantastic, but the previous generation Sportage, before the 2023s, so what, from 2016 to 2022, oh my goodness, the new Sportage leaps and bounds better. It's larger, which some people might like, some people might not really care for, but it's also way more driver-centered and driver-friendly. Although we get more technology, it's not really hard to grasp, which is nice, so it's welcomed technology changes. You also have more control over your vehicle and more utilization of things like snow mode, mud mode, or sand mode. If you are someone who often does cottage trips or, you know, maybe just live somewhere where the roads don't get plowed, I think it's something you'll really grow to appreciate. By no means is this a total off-roader, but it can get you through sticky situations without a problem. So, all right. Ryan answered Niall's question, the floor mats are in the trunk. Yeah, so this vehicle just arrived. We did not have a detailer today. I ran it through the car wash real quick. Don't worry, it was a touchless car wash, touchless and trackless, but I did what we could with what we had. How's the merging on the highway? Awesome as always, Gabi. So I've never had any issues with the 2.5 liter on the Kia Sportage. I know maybe if you're loading up with people and loading it to the max with all your cargo goods, it might feel a little bit sluggish. One thing I will definitely recommend if you are someone who appreciates a little bit more throttle input, put it in sport mode. A lot of people think things like sport mode or smart mode are gimmicks. They're not. They actually change the way your vehicle is performing. It's going to change your shift points. It's going to change your steering. It'll give you that change in feeling, more so what you're looking after. My previous vehicle, my Kia Forte, all I really cared for was the fuel efficiency because I was doing a lot of driving to get to work and back. However, I still always kept it in sport mode because, yeah, there's a minor trade-off in fuel efficiency, but I much preferred the way the vehicle handled and the way it shifted. So you'll find what works best for you, and there's nothing wrong with keeping your vehicle in sport mode all the time. I can promise you it is not going to damage your car. Neblung said, any major differences between this and the Tucson, or is it just personal preference? So I would say it's largely personal preference, but that's more so dependent on what trim level you're looking at. On the Hyundai Tucson, I think you have 3 trim levels that are straight gas before you get into hybrid territory. On the Kia Sportage, you get 6 trim levels, all gas, 3 hybrid, and then 3 plug-in hybrid. So there is a lot more variation in the Kia Sportage lineup. Huge. Now, let's say you're comparing both entry base models and you just want gas. That's where things get a lot more, depends on the styling. The Tucson looks very different than the Kia Sportage does. However, technology and equipment and specs are going to be just about the same. It's largely just the layout of where everything is. I would drive them back to back and see which one you like more. There isn't one that's a better car. It's just the Kia Sportage does offer a bit more variation. Okay, I'm at 31 minutes right now. Zoran also said, I noticed Gabi talks more when Moose isn't around. That's because I'm the only one here. If I didn't talk, I wouldn't go over the interior or anything. So yeah, there'd be a lot less talking. All right, you guys, that is about it for everything. Let us know in the comments down below if there's something I may have missed. And of course, please subscribe if you haven't already. We do videos like this just about every single day, every weekday. All right, bye-bye, take care.